Hi folks, this is Anthony Peter. Thanks for watching my program. Today we're going to talk about the Australian Constitution, which is the hot topic right now in the country. Let's get started. In the 21st century, among Western countries, only Australia allowed its parliament to readily enact laws that are racially discriminatory. Section 25 of the Constitution gives provision for the exclusion of voters based on race. Section 51, subsection 16 enables the Australian Parliament to regulate the affairs of the people of colored or inferior races. Please note the words colored or inferior races. So inferior races, if you're colored, that's mean you are inferior race. This is how it's meant under the White Australia Policy Constitution. So let's keep moving. Notably, in 1962, the Menzies government amended the Federal Electoral Act to give Indigenous people the right to vote in federal elections. The Federal Electoral Act can be revoked or invalidated at any time because it is not consistent with the Section 25 and 51 of the Constitution. So it cannot happen. I would not say it will not happen. At the same time, I would not say it's going to happen, but it can happen. If we elect a leader like Hitler, he can just say, he can cite the Constitution and say Section 25 and 51, we cannot allow the colored people to get voted. So things can be changed. There's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a possibility to happen. So why not to deal with that? It was a temporary patch-up solution, and it was not a permanent act until Australia removes Section 25 and 51 of the Constitution through a referendum. So this is, folks, this is what we referendum for. We could remove these clauses, right? If all Australians are the same, why we have such clauses to manage the affairs of the Aboriginal people? Let's carry on. The 1967 referendum paved the way for critical change that allowed Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to be counted in the census, but it did not go far enough to remove the Section 25 and 51 of the Constitution. Moving on. While countries like the United States and Britain have embraced diversity by electing minority candidates to prominent positions such as President, Vice President, and Prime Minister, Australia is close to Australasia, but it's not happening in Australia. I mean, Australia is in Australasia, but close to Asia, but Asian descendants cannot become a prominent leader. Isn't that says something? Isn't that raises a mindset that does exist from the Constitution that's been playing around for a long time, right? Let's move on. Personally, as someone with an Australian business degree and a postgraduate qualification in human resources management, I have experienced the effects of Australia's discrimination firsthand due to my writings. Say, you can't talk too much, you can't write too much because you are colored, right? Let's move on. Unfortunately, the Australian political elite isolate talented individuals of minority races instead of embracing them to lift the country. This discriminatory attitude is a source of shame for Australians on an international scale. Their prejudiced mindset not only undermines their own credibility, but also has negative repercussions for their allies, especially for their white counterparts. It's impossible to be a champion of human rights, democracy, rule of law, and human development while you're treating people like this. It's an embarrassment for us Western counterparts what Australia is doing, right? So, time to talk about what needs to be done, what in order to fix everything, especially lifting Australia's image internationally. Let's talk about what's need to be done. Anthony Albanese talks about that. Talks about having a voice for the Aboriginal people. But my question is, what that voice is going to do? And clearly, the Parliament has a mandate to regulate laws to control Aboriginal people. At the same time, giving voice, what is that is going to do any good for them? It's for me. It's like you lock up a prisoner in a prison room, then you are creating a window so that prisoner can shout. So by shouting, what that prisoner is going to achieve. So I believe that you have controlling over Aboriginal people by these constitutional arrangements that was created under White Australia policy. That has to be addressed first. First thing first. If all the races are same, all are equal, why you have such a calls to control the Aboriginal people? So you have to come out clean and remove this clause. That's what you have to do. I mean, why Anthony Albanese not telling the truth? He says that Australia has the Australian Constitution is not up to the standards of other Western countries. Why Anthony Albanese is not telling the truth? Why he just struggling to tell the truth? Is that he wants to play safe, that having control over the Aboriginal people through the Constitution, but giving this voice to just pretend that we are doing something good, but literally we can't control over them forever? Sadly, the opposition just drumming up and saying that this is going to divide the nation and all that. But there's nothing in it for the Aboriginal people, because you have the clause in the Constitution to control over them. Even they shout and make something good, you can have a laws to put them wherever you want them to be. So it's just not happening. I mean, it's an embarrassment for whole Australians and internationally. I mean, look at the rest of the Canada and all the Western countries. Even Germany doesn't have a constitution like this to control particular race. It's time to remove. I urge the people to just look at it, and media personnel, politicians, everybody, to look at yourself. How embarrassment it is for yourself and for the country you live. I urge you to come out clean, please. This is 21st century. Time to do something good. I know you are playing safe because of the fear. You think that if you give too much to the Aboriginal people, if you let them go, if they can do what it takes for them to come up, to get the education and right, and to come up, like education leads to knowledge, knowledge leads to power. So you don't want, if they have the knowledge, education, they will have the knowledge, then they will have the power, and you're concerned about. You don't want Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people having future Gandhi and future Nelson Mandela. So you are fearful and you want to play safe. I don't think you have to be fearful. and you look at what the other countries are doing and look at what Canada is doing. I'm not saying that perfectly they have done to the Canadian Aboriginal people, but they are well ahead. I want you to follow them at least. So that's what need to be done. Just removing the clause and letting the Aboriginal people have their own affairs, to have their own education and have their own leaders and have them their own life. You can't just continually do little as possible in the 21st century. It's impossible for you to carry on. Impossible, folks. Impossible. Let's, if for example, for the last 50 years, if we can get the data from the Chinese government, how much China has done to its people, and let all your own data from the government, Australian government, how much you've been doing to the indigenous people and Torres Strait Islander people for the last centuries. You've done little as possible. Isn't it clear that you moved and do everything based on race? Not only the Constitution, everything you do is based on race. I mean, I'm a victim of your racial discrimination. I'm knowledgeable. I always desire for knowledge. I read and I talk about it. You just feel uncomfortable. You don't want a brown person to talk about all these things. You wish you can just eliminate me and this guy, I'm gone. So I am a liberal. How you treating me? This is more. I've been living here for decades. This is my own experience. It's more valuable than any textbook. I have personal experience with you. Compared with the average politician, I'm well educated, but I can't even get a decent job. So you have control over me. You know how to go around and spread disinformation to control me, and you have the same control over Aboriginal people through the Constitution. And you say you want to give voice, like you have freely let me to talk, but you go around and spread disinformation. That's let me go nowhere. So you want to play the same tactic, but it's not going to fruitful for a long term, because if we continue to play safe and play ugly and play dirty games, then it will reflect on your allies, and we constantly going to expose it. And this is not going to be good on yourselves and allies when it comes to democracy, human rights, and human development.